If you like this channel and what I do here, please help to support my work by checking out one of my books, available from Lulu Publishing and Amazon.com. Thank you. Hello folks, welcome to Electric Media Madness. Carl James here. I'm joined by Dan Ryan today. How you doing, mate?
It's the quiet earth.
We watched The Quiet Earth, a fantastic little New Zealand film from 1985, I think it was.
Yes.
I've watched this film many times. Recently spurred on by a couple of things. We originally planned to do this video at New Year, just before New Year, but life got in the way of that, so we're now middle of January, but we've eventually got round to it. And there was a little weird story behind that I told you about, which we'll get into, which is to do with The Quiet Earth and New Year's Eve. Also the fact that I had this as a Christmas present. So you'd never seen this film before.
I have not, no.
I'll pop it up here for now so you can see it. And I just said, let's watch it, see what you think.
Yeah.
I first watched this film, I can't remember, I must have been in my late teens, something like that. Got to have been. So if it was 85, so yeah, it would have been mid to late teens, something like that. And it was one of these films that on British television at New Year's Eve after midnight, and people in the UK will know this, you'd have Jules Holland doing his Hoot Nanny and all the rest of it and all that kind of thing, going on. And then all the New Year's Eve stuff would go away. And then they'd put something like Mad Max or Soylent Green or The Quiet Earth was another one, on numerous UK terrestrial channels and some of the satellite channels as well, like the sci-fi channel one that used to be on Sky and things like that, and I don't know whether it still is now, I don't get Sky, so I don't know. But I always thought it was really, really bizarre, and me and my dad, we used to sit and watch these really apocalyptic, doom-laden films to see the new year in after the bells had gone at midnight and all the rest of it. And I said to you, it was just crazy how you'd be starting the new year, optimistic, looking forward, all this kind of thing, and then they'd put this like really doom-laden thing on, and years later, when I was got into my alternative knowledge research and stuff, I'm going to touch on a few bits and pieces of that with this video as well. I made a few contacts within the media and things like that, and I actually was talking to somebody about this, somebody who works in the BBC, has worked in the BBC for quite a long time in various capacities, and they said, yeah, it was something that was done intentionally because there was this idea, you can call it conspiratorial whether you want to or whatever, I don't know, but there's this idea that people would get a little bit too optimistic at New Year about the year going forward. They would think, oh, it's so much to look forward to, all that. And it was kind of like a tiny little psychological thing that was done to just dampen people down a little bit. Don't get too carried away, it's all going to be back to normal tomorrow. And it was, yeah, and I just thought there was some weird sort of fascinating psychology behind it. I've only got this person's word to go on whether that was the reason why it was done, but it makes sense to me why would they would do that. So you'd have these films that were like after a nuclear apocalypse or something like that, or after some disaster had happened, or a plague, or a zombie apocalypse or something like that. And The Quiet Earth fits in there. So let's just talk about it for a little bit. What did you think? We haven't discussed it yet, have we, between us?
We haven't. We have actively avoided talking about it. I thought it was good.
Right, okay.
However, I think I would have thought it was better if I hadn't have watched what I watched last night.
Right, okay, yeah. This is worth bringing into the discussion, actually. Because
I watched Mulholland Drive for the first time last night.
Yeah.
And that is a very good film. And I'm like, if I watch a very good film and then a not quite as good film, it makes the not quite as one seem not even more not quite as good.
Yeah. Variations on a theme, because I talked to you. I'm a huge fan of David Lynch, along with people like Mr. Kubrick as well. And what I like about them is the way they just leave things for you to interpret yourself. And The Quiet Earth does this as well.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering maybe if, like you say, I'd hyped it up a bit too much for you, and then having watched something like Mulholland Drive,
Yeah.
which really does leave you to...
Yeah. It was good. I thought the middle of this dragged a little bit. Like, there was a section in the middle where I was like, this feels like it's been going on a while, but it can't have been going on for more than like 20 minutes.
Yeah. It's not an overly long film anyway.
It's about an hour and a half, I think.
And for those people who've never seen the film, please go and watch it. It's in my opinion, well, we'll come to that anyway, my thoughts on it. But
watch it without reading anything about it first.
Because it spoils some of it. Especially the ending, if you get spoiled. But you weren't spoiled by the ending.
I wasn't spoiled by anything. I literally just knew that it was about someone as like the last man on Earth or whatever. That was it.
It's variations on a theme, we say. This idea of films that leave things to interpret. But also, it's one of those films, it's the idea has been done to death. You know, I would argue as back as early as things like there might have been more examples, but War of the Worlds, you know, the main character is wandering around the English countryside and not seeing anybody. And
do you know, I actually thought it was going to happen like half an hour in. Because I said to you I'd got the first season of Twilight Zone on Prime. I thought it was going to be like that episode where he's like on his own. And then he like wakes up in the program.
Oh, like, the chamber. Absolutely.
I was expecting something like that to happen.
Yeah.
And it didn't at all.
No. That's interesting that you should say that, yeah. It's one of these things that's been done in so many weird different ways, hasn't it? Yeah. You're a big fan, obviously, of zombie type stuff, you know, Walking Dead and all that kind of thing, and it's a variation on that theme. The idea of the plague, the virus, is I Am Legend, which is the Matheson story. I think it's loosely based on that. This idea of a lone survivor, but this is not. Another reason why I wanted to talk about this was because this is not a nuclear apocalypse or anything like that. This is not a zombie virus, or it's not even a virus or anything like that. No, this is technological.
It's just people are gone.
Yeah, so for those people, let me say, for those people who haven't seen it, go and check it out. The story is basically Zach Hobson, played by Bruno Lawrence, and he wakes up, finds himself alone in the world. There's nobody about. He works for this project Flashlight, Operation Flashlight. It's sometimes called Operation Flashlight in the film, sometimes it's called Project Flashlight, on various monitors and paperwork and that. And he's been working to create this free energy grid around the world, transmittable energy kind of thing, wireless energy. And I'm fascinated with this idea because it's something that I get into in my research. I'd said to you about Nikola Tesla, because he was doing that way back when, he was building these transmitters and for wireless free energy and all that kind of thing. And there is some sinisterness to this film because it's implied very much that he says I didn't realise what we were getting involved with, the evil. So there's an implication that this is going to be used for weapons purposes, because he says the Americans were leading the project and they weren't telling them exactly what was.
It made it sound like it would be used for like weaponry or something like that.
Yeah. And that's something that very much fascinates me because I don't want to get into too much here. I would just say go and check out Dr. Judy Wood, Where Did the Towers Go? The directed free energy technology on 9/11, because that evidentially shows that these types of technologies are real. They're not. Even though this film is science fiction, it is in the realms of science fiction. There is a real world thing to this as well. And I said about Tesla, this is like 100 of years ago, whatever, plus. And fascinatingly as well, I don't know if I ever told you about this, but my one of my contacts is a Disney contact and that.
You said,
and people don't get ideas sometimes, get a perspective sometimes on the type of research and development that goes on in the media. And one of the things that I was alerted to by my Disney contact way before this came into the public domain was this idea that Disney were working on a wireless transmittable energy thing. And then eventually I came across that video, and I don't know whether I showed it to you or not, the Disney room, the room where everything was wireless electricity in the room, and the lamps and the phones and that were all working. I'll have to put a little clip of it up on the video. But so this kind of thing is, it's real world stuff, this transmission.
Inject Mickey Mouse into me.
No, you don't want that to happen.
Insert it into my mind. I close my eyes and just suddenly
the
that
dodgy,
face.
strange world of Disney. People don't realise the half of it. They really don't. But so that's another example of that kind of technology. And we said about this film, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that because of me going on, but this idea of the timing with the nuclear thing in the 80s and that as well. Because this is something we found out was interesting about the film, didn't we?
Yeah, so New Zealand were very, very much no to all the nuclear weapon
that
stuff,
sort of thing,
and, you know, that particular time period.
I don't know if it's the case now, but they were very much against it, yeah.
But there was a lot of nuclear fear going on around that time, and there is mention in this...
There is.
About that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember if it directly says it or not, but...
But certainly the implication was there when he said about how the Americans and what they do and the powers that be and all this.
A lot of, like, America have these bad weapons or they've got these bad ideas and
if they've got technology they'll use it for evil means as well. That was employed as well. Well, I think that was said, wasn't it?
It was said, yeah.
The precedent with past films as well, I Am Legend and the Omega Man. And is it? I can never remember the order of the title. I've never actually seen it. It's the one with Harry Belafonte, the World, the Devil, and the Flesh, the Three Survivors. I think that's the name of the film. That was another one.
Yeah.
Even brought up the War of the Worlds and brought up the Purple Cloud. I don't know if you've ever heard me mention that to you. Shield, the book, and this idea of this amorphous sort of bacteriological thing that's floating around in the air and killing off all the world's population. There's only like one survivor left and all that. So that, I mean, that's a sort of bacteriological warfare type thing, or viral warfare type thing, or something like that. There are twists in that story, but one of the books I've written, Media Psyop 1938 War of the Worlds radio broadcast, which is all about the history of the broadcast and things like that. But one of the interesting things that came up was Orson Welles said he was down to 3 stories: the Lost World, the Dinosaurs one, the Purple Cloud, and the War of the Worlds. And obviously they chose the War of the Worlds to adapt to the radio play, which you've heard that as well, haven't you? By the great man himself, Orson Welles. And he said that he didn't want to use the Purple Cloud. And they're going to get very controversial with this for a second, because he didn't believe that the people would be hoodwinked by this idea of this amorphous thing that was floating around in the air killing people. And I was thinking, what a naive world you lived in, Orson Welles, because people believe that whole line and sinker nowadays, don't they? But imagine that. That was only 80 years ago as well. So.
I suppose at the time, though, there was a lot of sci-fi stuff. There was a lot of alien attack kind of things.
I mean, nowadays that's far more plausible than the Martians invading the Earth. As we've seen. I can understand this idea of not being hoodwinked by dinosaurs running through the cities. Yeah. That one is very, very far fetched, I suppose.
Yeah.
But he plumbed for that story to adapt. Which I don't. And again, we've said that's very similar. You've got the main character wandering around. There are a lot of people around, but there aren't too many characters in the War of the Worlds. So this is so it's got a good pedigree. The Quiet Earth has got a really good pedigree for those types of things. So we think as for you watching it for the first time, you'd think it was just one character.
Yeah.
But then another character comes into it, is Joanna, the woman. And they hook up for a little while, and you get a bit of a romantic interlude and all this kind of thing going on between them. And then another character comes into it. It's spelled Appy, but they pronounce it Oppie, don't they?
Yeah.
Oppie in the film. Lots of strange things going on there then, because this effect is going on, this Project Flashlight. And there's a couple of things where there's almost like a levitation thing. Because that ties in with what we're talking about, transmittal energy as well, and all that kind of thing. So there's some fascinating stuff going on there. He talks about there being a conspiracy, doesn't he? That he might be...
He keeps bringing it up, but he just plays it off as a joke. He's like, joking every time. But he's basically saying the other two are guardians for him.
Not guardian angels watching over him or something like that. And
more like...
Well, not guardian angels, no, that's not
more like gods.
Yeah.
Keeping him in check, kind of.
And they've got a secret language between the two of them that they talk about him when he's not... and people could argue that, he was just a bit paranoid, all that kind of thing. But that's a fascinating idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Multiple occasions it comes up, this idea that that he might. Though he says maybe I'm God and you two aren't real, and that's another thing. Brought up as an interpretation, what were your initial thoughts? We did talk a little bit more about after the fact.
We did.
What were your initial thoughts on what was really going on? Because I suppose really we should say, for the sake of the video, we should talk about the end, shouldn't we? Because
they think that it's caused by the grid, so they go and Zach destroys the grid. And he ends up on a beach, like the end of Evangelion.
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
And there's like mushroom clouds and Saturn's in the sky.
Nuclear, perhaps, the mushroom cloud, maybe. As well. But the Saturn stuff fascinates me. People will know with my research, I've really gone down the rabbit hole with that stuff. And the Brotherhood of Saturn worship and all that. And Saturn is, in esoteric circles, it literally is... time and space, that kind of thing. And so if you're looking into this idea of stepping out of reality completely into other dimensions and all that, that's a perfect symbol you could have there for that, if that's that's the message that the film is trying to say. Sorry, carry on anyway.
But yeah, and he's basically on the beach, and then it just he stands there for a little bit, and then it ends basically
with this big Saturn planet in the sky, in the sky.
It's a very out there ending. It just sort of happens and then ends.
People have dreams, that people think that dreams mean things, and I think there's something to that idea. I know in my life, I've gone quite a few occasions I've had dreams of looking up into the sky and seeing massive planets in the sky.
Yeah.
There is, again, that has Saturn stuff, the golden age of Saturn and the purple dawn, all this kind of thing, this idea that there were a point in time maybe where we would have seen much bigger astronomical sort of things, planets, stuff in the sky and all that kind of thing, and it's almost like a race memory that we're remembering these things. People in dream interpretation have said that it means big obstacles to overcome and stuff like that. So that's it's a fascinating bit of imagery. It's something that's really stuck with me over the years. It's one of those images that, a bit like the Evangelion thing at the end, you get these certain images sometimes in science fiction that really stay with you. This massive planet in the sky, like, where is he?
And initially, so that there's little things dropped throughout the movie where it can be, you're like, okay, it could be this or this or this. So I thought initially that they'd all been transferred to a alternate universe or whatever just before they died to like a universe where they didn't die.
Right. Okay.
And it was like maybe.
You mean? Earlier in the film when the first effect happens.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And maybe it was only everyone else disappeared except the people who were about to die.
Right, yeah.
At that very second. Yeah. But that's why they don't find any, because there weren't that many at that second.
Yeah.
And then I thought the ending was him actually dying and going to heaven or whatever.
Right, okay.
That was my initial thought.
Yeah. There's a lot of allusions to this idea that people who worked on the film have said that there are because it's never been completely ever confirmed.
Yeah,
there's just allusions to it. People just generically talking about it. This idea of the religious idea of it. That's Lost did it, played on that idea for over the entire 6 seasons of that. And that's all energy and consciousness as well. And I think this is a similar type of film. Very much a train of thought kind of thing, and it's bizarre when you're coming out of having watched Mulholland Drive the night before to have all these weird esoteric ideas whacked at you and thrown at you. And
this was nothing compared to Mulholland.
No, it isn't. It's very tame compared to Mulholland Drive. But it's this idea of Mulholland Drive is very much one of the treatises on Mulholland Drive is she dead? Is she at the end? Has she died? Is she These are the moments before she dies, and she's all this kind of thing, and that's what's being made manifest in the film. This could be the case with this film as well. Or what were they? Was he transported to another dimension? Were they transported to the dimension at the beginning? Where the rest of humanity weren't, because they were at that moment of dying, and then again, was he transported to another dimension at the end? Did he not die at the end? Did he
Or he could have been God the whole time, and the end was him wiping out this world and creating a new.
Energy and consciousness. Maybe he manifested his own reality in the end. it's a fascinating idea, and it's a film that I've really, it's stuck with me over the years. I've always wondered about it and what it means.
So a film with such a small budget of $1 million,
Mm-hmm.
it looks very good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not. There's not loads of visual effects and stuff. Like, if this
Some
was
pyrotechnics, explosions, things like that, and
if this was made now,
Yeah.
it would look incredible.
yeah.
But, well, actually, it'd probably be like a full-on blockbuster if it if it came out now. But
Yeah, but I don't think that they would do justice to a story
No.
like that nowadays.
No.
Because they don't know how to do stories like that nowadays, you know.
I think, yeah, it looks good for what it is. Especially on the Blu-ray, it looks very good.
Yeah.
Um,
I've always thought it was a beautifully shot film. It
Yeah.
looks gorgeous anyway, even with my VHS copy I had years ago, and then DVD, and now, you know. I've always thought it was amazing that they'd managed to film in all these locations where I know they shot stuff right just after dawn broke, you know, so there was
Yeah.
nobody around and that. I need to scrutinise the film to see if there's things, because there's one shot long in the distance with the city all behind. I'll have a look, see if there's any planes or anything like that in
Yeah.
the background, or any sort of obvious signs of life in the background, but doesn't seem to be. It's really well made in that respect.
and the sound, you very much like the music.
I love the music in the
Yeah.
film. I think it's an amazing soundtrack. Yeah. I wish they did things like that nowadays. You know, it's sinister at times, and then it just gets really majestic and and that again. It's not the only time that piece of music is used in the film. I think it's used a couple of times, but it's used to good effect at the end with the Saturn rise and the beach.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. It looks and sounds absolutely gorgeous. I love it. I love the film. You know, I cannot say enough good things about it.
While I was reading the booklet as well, they were saying that there's a lot of things in there that are tribute to George Romero's Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
And especially the bit where he goes into the shopping centre with the car
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise that when I watched it, but like while I was reading it after, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of other arresting scenes. There's a very controversial scene in the church where he's got the shotgun and he blasts away at the statue of Jesus. And I can't remember exactly who it was who worked on the production of the film, had said, I think they were a lapsed Catholic, and they'd got a lot of things that they wanted to get off their chest about organised religion and stuff like that. There's also a very controversial scene where he crowns himself king of the president of the world, and he's got all these cutouts of and all sorts of other questionable, dodgy people and things like that.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Kind of took me off guard a little.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It seems that the quiet desperation of it all, and the descending to insanity as well, where he's walking around with somebody's under slip on us, this woman out this wardrobe, this negligee or something, you know. He really is descending into insanity. And one of the things, I don't know if you picked up on this, but I thought it was really, really interesting how the moment where he puts the shotgun into his, you know, because he's going to be a self-ender, let's use that term, and he's just giving up. And then there's like a boom, which is the explosion of the thing, and it kind of shocks him out of it, doesn't it? And the next scene, we see him on the beach. You know, splashes up the seawater, and he walks across the beach and all that kind of thing. And it's like a revelation. It's like a moment of awakening. Isn't it fascinating how the end of the film, again, the beach,
That's
like
true,
another
actually,
moment of awakening. You know, like this, but all uber. Sort of like, where is he now? You know, this next level of existence and all that kind of thing. Yeah. And timely, I'd imagine, as well, because if that is the theme of the film, we've certainly got a lot of that going on at the moment. We talked about this when we did our Matrix video, you know, we've got a lot of this multiverse type stuff going on, parallel dimensions, portals through, you know, other realms. And
it's very popular at the moment.
Yeah. So it's perhaps a good idea for people to watch this again in mind of everything that's being put out at the moment. So I can't recommend it enough. So it's a wonderful film. I love the film.
By how much you praised it, I maybe had my expectations a little too high. I did enjoy it still. Like, I'd say it's around like an 8 out of 10 for
okay
me.
Yeah.
That's a high score.
Yeah, that's perfectly respectable. Yeah, and I know that you enjoyed it. For me, it's a classic. It's 10. It's a film that stayed with me all my life. I love it. I really do. It's It's a really... I wish we had more stuff like that nowadays, that we're having to go back to these old films to look for these kinds of things. Mulholland Drive's a fairly old film now as well, you know.
Yeah, it's 20 years old.
Yeah, we're having to go back into sort of like the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s to some degree to find these absolute gems, these films that, you know, films and TV shows as well, things that really make you think, things that are clever, they're thoughtful, and this is another one of those films, and I can't praise it enough. So.
It's a bit of a shame now that whenever they do, like, they do still come out, but people, I mean, okay, I'm guilty of this too. The Marvel stuff overpowers everything else, okay? I have seen No Way Home 4 times in cinema, okay? But when these small, like, there was a film, Censor, that came out last year, very small indie film, it got a few cinema screenings and that was it. Really good, that makes you think as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it got, like, nothing. Basically, no one noticed it even existed.
Yeah.
And that does happen, and that's why stuff like this will, like, maybe they'll be found as, like, cult classics in 20 years.
Yeah.
But at the minute, a lot of them just fall through and get missed.
It's the nature of the system, isn't it? It's what... I mean, we used to say it was all about what made money, but the kind of dross that's coming through now clearly can't be making them money, but they still keep making these types of things, you know. I mean, No Way Home isn't I suppose, an exception to the rule.
It is, because it is actually a very good...
Yeah, because it's a good film in its own way, but it's hardly going to fire off the synaptic pathways, is it? You know, it's not that sort of film.
No.
I don't think those films aren't really made to be that, are they?
No.
And I know a lot of people in the industry, and a lot of people outside the industry as well, have said those kind of films are ruining good filmmaking. And it is true that most of those good films tend to get made now by, you know, art house outfits, indie cinema, basically, you know, and that kind of thing. But I'm not 100% sure how. I don't think The Quiet Earth was a flop, but I wouldn't exactly say it was in any way a huge blow up sort of. Yeah. But it's one of those things that's very much become appreciated over time. It's like you say, it becomes cult classics. A lot of these films do. So maybe that's the way it's all going now.
Maybe.
Yeah. So, but thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching it with me. And
it was good.
Yeah, it made a nice change to watch something a bit different. It's a shame really that it wasn't New Year's Eve when we could have talked about the end of the world. Yeah. Okay, so with that, we'll say thank you very much for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed this video, and take care. And Dan and I will see you again very soon.
Bye bye.
For now.